By 1968, the United States was boiling over. Protests filled the streets, war raged overseas, and the national mood was tense. But the quiet suburbs of the San Francisco Bay Area felt entirely insulated from the noise. On a freezing Friday night in December, two teenagers, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Lou Jensen, pulled off an isolated, unpaved road in Benicia for a first date. They never made it home. Police found both teenagers shot to death outside their car. Their wallets were untouched. There were no signs of a struggle, and neither victim had known enemies. In 1968, standard investigations were built on tangible motives like money or revenge. Without those leads, the search for the killer began with no clear path forward. 6 months later, a pattern locked into place. On July 4, 1969, a gunman attacked Darlene Ferrin and Michael Majo in their parked car at a Vallejo park. Darlene was killed. Michael survived.
Less than an hour later, the police station phone rang. The man on the line didn't whisper or panic. He spoke clearly, directing the dispatcher straight to the crime scene. Standing at a rotary payphone just blocks from the police department, the anonymous caller claimed responsibility for the Vallejo shooting, and then added that he had killed the teenagers in Benicia, too. By reporting his own crimes, the killer shifted the investigation from a search for a hidden fugitive into a public performance. The local police weren't a big enough audience. On August 1st, 3 major Bay Area newspapers received identical handwritten letters. The writer issued an ultimatum: print his words on the front page by Friday afternoon, or he would spend the weekend shooting people at random. This is the Z408 cipher. He included a third of this 408 symbol cryptogram in each letter, claiming that a solution would uncover his identity. A week later, a local couple deciphered the grid. It didn't hold a name, but a manifesto declaring killing was fun, ending with a glaring misspelling: paradise. Soon after, another letter arrived, signed with a crossed circle symbol and a new name, the Zodiac. He was using the region's largest newspapers to build his own brand. In September, the theatrics became physical. At Lake Berryessa, a man approached a picnicking couple wearing a black square executioner's hood stitched with a white crossed circle. He tied them up and stabbed them. Before walking away, he used a black marker to write the exact dates of his previous attacks directly onto the victim's car door. 2 weeks later, he left the isolated rural parks and entered the dense urban grid of San Francisco, shooting cab driver Paul Stein. To prove his involvement, he tore away a piece of Stein's blood-soaked shirt at the scene. Days later, he mailed pieces of that fabric to the press. Mailing a piece of the victim's clothing provided Denise Papers with undeniable physical proof, ensuring his communications would dominate the headlines. The San Francisco murder provided his closest brush with capture. Due to an error over the police radios, responding officers were told to look for a black male suspect. This allowed a white man matching the actual description to walk right past them. He seized on this mistake immediately. In his next letters, he mocked the officers by name, focusing on how easily he slipped through their perimeter. He then expanded his threats to the most vulnerable targets possible, outlining plans to shoot out the tires of school buses and attack the children inside. Armed police began riding buses. Curfews were enforced. The Zodiac used these threats to create a state of constant paranoia across the entire city. After a final confirmed letter in 1974, the communications simply stopped. The active hunt slowly shifted into a decades-long cold case. Investigators chased thousands of leads. Law enforcement spent years analyzing prime suspects like Arthur Lee Allen, matching handwriting and circumstantial evidence, but they could never decisively link him to the crimes. His puzzles, however, kept the public hooked. In 2020, an international team of amateur codebreakers finally cracked his most complex cipher, the Z340, 51 years after it was mailed. The decoded message contained more boasting and more threats, but not a single identifying detail. The cipher wasn't a confession. It was a mechanism designed to maintain the mystery long after he was gone. The Zodiac case pushed Northern California law enforcement to adopt the emerging tools of criminal profiling to better understand the serial offenders they couldn't catch through traditional means. The evidence is still out there. Traces of DNA, partial prints, and saliva on the back of decades-old stamps sit in evidence rooms today, waiting for modern forensic technology to catch up. The Zodiac murdered at least 5 people, but his ultimate achievement was his own mythology. By turning his violence into a public puzzle, he ensured that we would still be a captive audience 50 years later.